Family and fellow soldiers, I'm the Professor, and this is the Moment of Truth. The left corner of the white media's attempts to do image rehabilitation for Kamala Harris has gone from ludicrous to outright stupid. They're trying so hard to carpet bomb the public with propaganda that's supposed to be positive for her, going overboard to make her out to be a political rock star, and predictably leading the charge as one of the most uninformed individuals on the white media's payroll.
First, it's the DEI hire part first, and then it's the record. But they can't help themselves but going at the race part of this.
Let me just say something here.
Please do.
This is going to work out badly because they worked very hard to attract black men into the Republican Party. They worked very hard to attract Latin men into the Republican Party. And they were getting a little bit of momentum there. There were a lot of black men who were saying, no, the Democrats don't do anything for us, and Biden's weak, and they're starting to look over there at the Republican Party. You start insulting black women, you're going to see something you haven't seen before. Black men are not going to put up with that. I want to send a warning, as clear as I can. I was on a phone call with 20,000 black men. The word protect came up about 1,000 times. Protect this sister. Protect this sister. We're going to protect her. Protect her. You're about to see something you haven't seen before. Look, people messed around with Hillary Clinton and said a bunch of mean stuff to her. Black men set that out. We won't set this out.
Van Jones. You know, I think I liked him a lot more when he was blubbering and crying all the time. And he's using all this shaming language with that black men. When I talk to black men, they all say the same thing. Protect this sister. Protect this sister. Here we go, that sister girl stuff. I guess get your booty to the polls was played out. But that's what they're talking now. Kamala Harris doesn't even do that sister girl routine as much as she used to. Because she's been trying to pivot over to the Asian vote. And she's been emphasizing, hey, my mother is Indian, that kind of thing. But here you got Van Jones saying black men have been saying protect this sister. Yeah, because whenever Kamala Harris is brought up, all the black men throw up the black power fist, right? We put on the kente cloth and the kufis that we've been saving for just the proper occasion. Right? This is just another example of the white media trying to prove that they can dictate your own opinions to you. Their old Jedi mind trick. Oh, you don't think that Kamala Harris is just a self-interested social climber who's just been parachuting from one strange bedfellow to the next as she tries to climb the political ladder. No, what you think is that she's a dyed-in-the-wool down for the struggle sister girl. That's what you think. And if somebody's out there saying something mean about her, if the Republicans are doing the usual power games of race, well, you just go ahead and say, we must protect this sister. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to dictate your opinion to you because apparently they think you'll fall for it. And a few more days of this, and they'll be against the Republicans. First of all, there's not a tidal wave of black men trending toward the Republicans, and the ones who are, they're not going to be swayed by whether or not Kamala Harris is catching some flack. But of all the things for him to do, that protect this woman stuff, protect her. Is anyone trying to harm Kamala Harris? Anyone trying to come at her? She's the Vice President of the United States. She has a full Secret Service detail, a motorcade, intelligence agencies whose job it is to identify any threats against her and to stop them. She's the most protected woman on planet Earth. So when Van Jones talks this protect her stuff, what the hell is he talking about? What does that even mean? When I hear this political hack say that phrase, you know who it reminds me of? It reminds me of another biracial politician who demanded that black people protect them. Barack Obama.
And after we have achieved historic turnout in 2008 and 2012, especially in the African American community, I will consider it a personal insult, an insult to my legacy, if this community lets down its guard and fails to activate itself in this election. You want to give me a good send-off? Go vote!
So it's nice to see that Kamala Harris is still operating out of the Obama playbook line by line. And that infamous clip you just saw was taken from a 2016 rally that Barack Obama attended supporting Hillary Clinton. And look at how angry and indignant he was here. He was ready to fight. See, this is how they talk to black people. Barack Obama would never go to a white audience and show that kind of anger to them. He would never go to a white audience and lecture them about how they and their ancestors have benefited from institutional racism, so they owe it to him to do as he says. He saves the lecturing and condescension and haranguing for us. Then again, you got the rest of these white Democrats who do similar things. Like Joe Biden saying, if you don't know whether or not to vote for him, then you ain't black. He would never talk that way to white people or Asians or Jews. He would never do that. After everything Barack Obama did and didn't do regarding the black community, that bastard had the nerve to say he would consider it a personal insult to his legacy if we didn't obey him. Well, that's the reason we stayed home in 2016, to deliver a personal insult to him, to show the world what we thought of him. 2016 was the final verdict on the failure of Barack Obama. His legacy is a legacy of lies and failure, and we put the capstone on it. He considered it a personal insult. All right, and after we insulted him, what did he do about it? Were we supposed to be afraid of him? Were we supposed to be worried that we would offend this do-nothing social climber? Were we supposed to live in fear that he wouldn't like us? Well, we didn't like him. And that's why we gave him a send-off, all right. That's what you say. You got to give me the right send-off. Oh, we did. We gave him the kind of send-off he deserved. A humiliating defeat at the hands of his worst enemy. Look at him, the way he stood there, in full overseer mode, angry, yelling, barking out orders to a constituency that had stopped listening to him long ago, lecturing the black community and telling us that we had better obey him. You have never seen any white politician or any other politician of any other race telling their people that they would consider it a personal insult if white voters or Asian voters or Hispanic voters or Jewish voters didn't turn out for a black politician. They don't do that. Obama was demanding black people turn out to vote because he knew that he hadn't done anything that would incentivize us to vote. If he had actually done right by the black vote, he wouldn't have to be sitting there going, y'all gotta turn out, y'all gotta turn out. Black people would already be on board. But after 8 years of insults, excuses, and outright lies that Joe Biden was present every single day for, Obama stood there and demanded we do something for him when he spent damn near a decade doing nothing for us. This is the well that Van Jones draws from when he says, I've talked to these black men and they had one reaction. They said, protect this woman. What has Kamala Harris done to protect black people? That's what I want to know. You want to use that protect black woman line? Fine. What did Kamala Harris do to protect Matrice Richardson? She used a dead black woman as a political football. Nobody was ever charged for that killing, much less prosecuted. And Kamala Harris didn't do that once, but twice. Sonia Massey was murdered in cold blood in her own home by a racist cop who bounced between 6 different police departments in only 4 years. Where's that White House-level Police Accountability Commission that Kamala Harris ran on back in 2020? Because part of that commission's job was supposed to be tracking cops who bounce around like this one did. Oh, wait, now I remember. Biden said that he didn't have time for the very White House-level Police Accountability Commission that he himself proposed. He said Congress needs to handle that, knowing full well that both political parties are completely and thoroughly opposed to doing anything to regulate, much less rein in or punish the thugs in blue. And even if by some political miracle the Democrats were actually inclined to crack down on police brutality, in the age of gridlock, there's no way in the world this kind of thing would actually be workable in Congress. The White House actually would be about the only place you could do it, the executive branch. But Biden, after he ran on that very promise for the entirety of his campaign, as soon as he won the presidency, he immediately did an about-face and said, I lied. And Kamala Harris hasn't said a word about it. See, those are black women who needed protecting. But in one instance, Kamala Harris refused to fulfill a campaign promise that she made to protect one of those women, and in the other case, she just used a dead black woman's memory to score cheap points during her Senate campaign. She opposes reparations and says she won't do something that only benefits black people, and yet she wants black people to stick up for her. Oh, I mean to protect Kamala Harris. An action that would only benefit her. And protect what? Her ego? Her pride, her reputation. While it's unquestionably true that the party of blatant racism, the Republicans, are using the phrase DEI as nothing more than a thinly veiled racial slur, Republicans are going to Republican after all. It's also true that Kamala Harris was put on the ticket by Joe Biden precisely to appeal to black female voters. That was the reason she was put on the ticket. The answer to that, of course, is that the Democrats ought to be pointing out that the only reason Joe Biden was chosen as Obama's running mate was to appeal to older white males. There's your DEI hire, by the way. And as for protecting Kamala Harris's honor or reputation or whatever, is it really about protecting her, or that we're supposed to look at her as a proxy for ourselves? Because when I look at Kamala Harris, I don't see a woman who's concerned about the black community one iota, and never has been. Oh, she'll pay some minor lip service to the black community, but mostly just to manipulate us. She's been out there on the campaign trail and ain't been saying boo about black people. Though she has been saying things about women quite a bit. I've been telling you for the longest time the Democrats' entire strategy has been to use abortion as a way to appeal to white suburban women. the GOP female voters in general, because that constituency doesn't threaten white supremacy. Hell, they're the beneficiaries of it. And here you have MSNBC bragging that Kamala Harris is trying to appeal to them. Now, if she was catering to the party's base, black voters, then she wouldn't have to be bending over backwards hoping that white suburban women will put an issue of their gender before Trump's issues about their race. I've talked about this, that the same white suburban women the Democrats want to appeal to have no problem walking into a voting booth and voting to keep abortion legal because it benefits them, while at the same time voting for the very Republican individuals who have spent decades trying to outlaw abortion in the first place. The political and electoral track record on this one is clear. The very individuals who the Democrats are hoping to appeal to have already shown time and again that if the Republicans come up to that very same constituency showing them an issue of white privilege that's at stake, and your counter to that is you're going to show them some sort of gender issue, they're going to vote for white privilege every single time. Because they depend on white privilege. They don't depend on abortion for every crumb of their daily bread. They depend on white privilege. And they know it. And there are people who don't want to be realistic about that. They're just trying to big her up. That's what the white media is trying to do. Talk her up. Tell everyone she's the second coming. Now, you don't see any of this raw enthusiasm from any crowds, though, do you? These stories claiming that Kamala Harris is ahead of Trump in the polls, it reminds me of the kind of propaganda that was being put out by these never-Trumper right-wing organizations in the days after his 2020 defeat, where they were trying hard as hell to make Ron DeSantis look like he was going to be an unstoppable alternative to Trump. You see, those white right-wing organizations, they also claim to have polls saying that DeSantis was ahead of Trump too. There were tons of polls saying that Hillary Clinton was ahead of Trump back in 2016, and I think we all know how that one turned out. What we have from the white media is all this hyper-aggressive image rehabilitation going on. It's abrupt, sudden, jarring, and most of all, awkward. This is the same white media that has been telling people how Kamala Harris is just this goofball and she just has all these missteps. She's as bad a gaffe machine as Biden, uninspired and uninspiring. I guess it just shows the predictable, typical arrogance of the white media that they think they can take all the bad headlines that they've been writing about Kamala Harris for the last 4 or 5 years, practically nothing good about this woman, and yet now they've done an about-face and they're saying exactly the opposite. They think they can do that simply because she's the nominee now, because that's what they're trying to do. All of these years of headlines about Kamala Harris and her PR disasters and how she just careens from one mess to the next. No good headlines at all, and now all of a sudden we're supposed to believe that she's the golden child, saying she's ahead in the polls when up until now her approval rating has been in the toilet, saying she's energizing the voters when she's actually still speaking to the same handful of Democratic Party operatives at half-empty venues, saying that she's had an evolution. Really? What she evolved from? She's still the same bumbling, stumbling, uninspired, uncharismatic empty suit she's always been. There's been no change. There's been no evolution. But that's what they're telling the public. Especially they're hoping that folks are going to look and say, well, remember all that bad stuff we were saying about Kamala Harris? Oh, you can forget about that. Oh, she's changed so much. She has evolved so much. Oh, she's a totally new political animal now. But this is the left corner of the white media trying to see if they can conjure some magic, try to manufacture a perception out of thin air. They tell you this is a brand new Kamala Harris. This is a different person. She's grown. She's evolved. She's developed into a presidential caliber politician. Now. And then she does her interviews and she still sounds like basically she should have stuck to local politics in Oakland. She's still the same old product of the California political machine. The same kind of old operative who was licking the boots of low-down Willie Brown back in the day. She hasn't evolved, hasn't changed at all. There's nothing about her that says that she can tackle global issues, and that's because she didn't rise to power because of her aptitude. She got there because she was able to play the game. And the game is supporting white supremacy. The game is supporting anti-black racism, and that's exactly what she did. So now Kamala Harris is in a situation where a whole lot of those folks are gunning for her now, and where she needs to have support, she doesn't. So Van Jones can sit there talking about protect this woman all he wants. He's only speaking for himself and the same old handful of ignorant black males who are still in the hip pocket of the Democratic Party because they depend on them for every crumb of their daily bread. But out here in the real world, where we actually have to deal with racism and not just a few pot shots by a few inbred racists in the GOP during election season, we understand that Kamala Harris is no more an asset or ally to the black community than the Mike Johnsons or any other sawed-off racist from the white right. The problem here isn't whether or not someone's taking pot shots at the concept of DEI. The question is whether or not you put political power in the hands of a Kamala Harris and she actually uses it to protect black people. That's who needs protection. But that's exactly who she's ignored and neglected. And now, after all that, we have some bootlicking scumbags who get on TV and say, we have to protect this woman because some Republicans said some mean stuff about her. If the Democrats had done their job and actually produced for black voters, then they would actually have the House of Representatives and it wouldn't matter what the Republicans were saying. Hell, they'd have their freaking supermajority, but that's the whole problem. The Democrats, like the Republicans, they want to have political power, but just like the Republicans, they do not want black people to get anything out of it. To them, it's a political game of keep away. Get what you need and make sure you keep all the tangibles away from black people. So that being the case, since Kamala Harris hasn't felt the need to protect black women or black people up until this point, well, I don't know what to tell her other than you made your bed, now you're going to have to lie in it. But then again, if there's anything Kamala Harris knows how to do, it's lie. Good day, and be one. I'd like to take a moment to mention some of our contributors. Frederica Moore, Kenneth Johnson, Black to Deaf, Starlet Thompson, and Ty Banks. Salute to them and thank you to everyone for listening, liking, and sharing this message. Black empowerment only exists because of you.